Today I'm going to talk to you about the journey that we took doing academic parent-teacher teams at Butte. APTT stands for Academic Parent-Teacher Teams, and it's really about building capacity for effective family engagement. Today I want to talk a little bit about why we decided to choose APTT at our building, and also give you a little bit of information about what that APTT model and the essential elements look like, and then talk about our progress and the benefits that we've seen so far using APTT. When we decided why APTT, one of the factors, we did go to a presentation that was about APTT, and one of the slides that really resonated with our group was when they talked about that it's a matter of time, that it really is a myth that students spend more time with us than at home, that actually even when accounting for sleep, 55% of their time is away from school with families. So we knew that there was this time that we could really benefit from tapping and collaborating with families toward increased student achievement. When we looked at wanting to increase that family engagement, we were also thinking about family involvement and how that's different than family engagement. And we were fortunate at Butte that we felt we were doing family involvement very well. We were getting families into school and had a high level of participation for those involvement kind of events, but we weren't capitalizing and really collaborating with families. It was more bringing families in, and we wanted to instead change that and have something where we were working together towards increased student learning and achievement. So for us, the thing we wanted to try to do that was APTT. To that end, our next process was we received a grant. So the Department of Public Instruction in Wisconsin awarded 10 APTT grants within the state, and we were one of those 10 in that first cohort. It's a 2-year implementation process. We're currently in the second year of that implementation, and all of the training for APTT has been provided to us by West Ed and DPI. It is a very formatted program, so I'm going to kind of tell you a little bit about that. Every year, APTT meetings, there are 4 meetings. 3 of them are family meetings in which all of the parents in a classroom meet at the same time with the teacher, and the teacher presents, really collaborates with families during that time. It's a 75-minute meeting, and I'll talk a little bit later about what those elements are. But during that meeting, parents are really encouraged to talk and to really build a collaborative community around increasing student achievement. In addition to those 3 meetings, there's 1 individual session, which is a 30-minute session. For us, we held that in anytime between October and December last year, scheduled with parents, and even that individual session has a pretty scripted format of the pieces that you go through. This is, and I know this is a difficult piece to see, and the intention isn't really that you can see all of this, but this is the sheet that really guides the meeting. So when I talked before about essential elements, one of the essential elements, that top one, is to welcome and team building. And that is a really key piece. That's getting families to feel comfortable with one another and comfortable with the teacher. This was a piece that our staff was somewhat hesitant with, and West Ed gave us training about different ice-breaking pieces. That's one of the elements that you use. At the end, that was by far one of the favorite pieces, because you could really see a shift in families and how they related in their comfort level, feeling much more comfortable collaborating after that piece. Then the next session there's a review of foundational grade level skills, and that's something that the grade level chooses based on data of a foundational grade level skill that is going to be something that the family and teacher can work on and collaborate together to increase achievement and have it be a building block in future learning for students. Then there's a section where teachers show data, and that data is class data. So I'll show you later what that graph looks like, but parents are given a folder, and in that folder their student is assigned a number, and when they look at that graph, they know what their student number is on that graph and can see where their student is in that data set, as well as how they compare to their peers. This, again, in feedback from parents, was one of their favorite pieces. They mentioned often in parent-teacher conferences, they don't have that context. They don't know how their child is comparing to their peers or where they are in their classroom. So that was a parent piece that they really appreciated. After that data, there's that skill is worked on through a different activity or games, and we do provide the take-home pieces for families to follow through with that at home. So there's a time where we talk about what the practice of activities looks like. We model that as kind of a I do, we do, you do kind of an activity, and also encourage parents to think of the kinds of things that children are going to be possibly find challenging in that activity and how we can challenge them or get them to the next. And then at the end, there is a section where we're setting a SMART goal. And in that time, parents are given the opportunity to think of how many times are they going to work on this activity or game together, and where do they want to get their child, what's the goal as far as moving that data. So that's kind of what the meeting process looks like for those 3 75-minute meetings. When I talk about founding level skill, this is something that the team has decided and chosen ahead of time based on student data and what this particular group of students needs. An example from last year at our school was 3rd grade was working on reading fluency. It's important when we're talking about what that grade level skill is with parents that we're really clear, letting them know what the skill is, but then also letting them know why that's important. So talking about fluency and what that really means, but then connecting that to why is that an important reading skill and how is that going to help their child in reading going forward. And I talked a little about what that graph looks like. So this would be like meeting number 1 fluency graph. And you can see there are across the bottom, those are student numbers and those are private numbers. So for example, if my child is number 2, I can look at the graph and know that they were in 89 words per minute currently, or the last time that they took this data set. The yellow line shows where they should be at this point in the year, or where we would like them to be on their trajectory to meeting, and that red line is the end of year goal. So it gives parents a context for where we want them now and where we want them by the end of the year. And then we talked about that last piece is really looking at, I would sit down and I would, in that 75-minute meeting, it ends with a SMART goal. So talking about if I'm currently at 62 words per minute, my child is, for example, that the next time we meet in 60 days from now, that I want the goal to be 92, for example, reading 30 words per minute more. And to reach that, I talk about who's going to practice with the child, how many days a week, and how long each of those will look. And then we do collect one of those we keep, and then one of these sheets goes home with the families to remind them of what that goal looked like. This is from APTT number 2. So when that whole group comes back together, one of the exciting pieces is you show that data and you show that, so the red line represents the new data, and I can look at what happened as far as growth. And you can see for the most part there was quite a bit of student growth, not necessarily where they need to be at this point for everybody, but they are certainly moving in that direction. There were people, so before I said what if my child was number 2, people came in and unfortunately they didn't see that growth. In fact, in this case, the student went backward. We had conversations about that. Parents had an opportunity. Sometimes parents said, well, I really didn't follow through on my goal. I think it's important that I do that. We had those kinds of conversations. Also just conversations about what happened here. Is that what we're really seeing? So that just led to some good conversations because it definitely showed growth as an overall statement, but not necessarily for every single student. So as far as where we are in our process right now, we have completed the first year of that. We did do some debrief meetings with as well as Ed, and during those times we kind of talked about what our next steps were, pieces that we wanted to get even better in. We attended some additional training in Madison with our focus team, and then provided additional training for our teachers when we came back. We trained our new teachers as well. We did have some debrief meetings with staff and our PTO, and we had some with parents as well and got some good feedback as far as the pieces that they liked and different pieces they were interested in seeing. One of the pieces of feedback from staff was they definitely saw the benefit in continuing to do this. Even though it was a big transition from doing our typical parent-teacher conferences, they saw a real benefit in working with parents in this way instead. We're currently in that second year of implementation, and then currently we've done our first APTT whole group meeting. Most teachers have held their 30-minute individual meeting, and we're planning now selecting our goal, our foundational skill, as well as activity for our January meeting. Kind of the feedback I talked about a little bit, but the feedback, we did meet all of those essential elements, that first sheet that I showed with the 5 different elements of the APTT process. We did receive positive feedback both from West Ed and DPI reviewers, and looked at also there's a lot of feedback, opportunities for feedback built in as far as from staff and from different reviewers within the building, as well as West Ed and DPI that we've seen. Just in our first year, almost year and a half in, we've seen that it really has changed the quality of conversations that we have with parents and families, that our conversations are much more academically focused and focused on student growth. In addition, that has led to a change in our school culture, that our PTO and our different parent groups, as well as parents volunteering, are really looking for those opportunities to collaborate in a deeper sense about working on student achievement, rather than just being here to raise money or increase, have more fun activities for our students. That's all led to a greater sense of collaboration. It has as well empowered families and let them know the important role that they play in helping their students achieve and working with teachers to help lead towards student success. And recently, we've been seeing that we really have this opportunity to share success with parents. So, for example, when our recent DPI report card came out and we had some news to celebrate, it really felt not like just a teacher and student success, but that it was a community success, that it was our teachers and our families and our students. So it was a great opportunity for us to be able to say this is what happens when we all work together. So that's been very positive for our school. So that's kind of where we're at right now, and I appreciate you taking time to listen to this.